Welcome everyone for joining us today. This is the essential screening strategies for denied parties in the U.S. tech sector. My name is Riitho. I'm a co-founder here at Byte, and joining me today is Thariq, Byte CEO.
Hey everyone, thanks a ton for joining.
So today's session is designed specifically for US-based tech companies and exporters who are looking for a more structured, scalable approach to denied party screening. So whether you're dealing with suppliers, resellers, or customers, the expectations around screening are evolving and the risks are real. So we're going to walk through first what's changed recently with regard to regulation, the regulatory landscape, and then offer a step-by-step step-by-step framework for entity screening, and also show a live demo of how to screen bulk lists efficiently. A few housekeeping tips, comments. We are recording today's session and we will share a replay afterwards. So if you miss anything or need to drop off, we'll share that recording. We'll also be sharing some resources throughout the hour, and we'll share those in an email following the end of the webinar. And then finally, we will share at the end. This is an approved course for the broker credits. So if you do need those broker credits, we'll share that code at the end of the event. There is a Q&A box available and also a chat function. So feel free to drop questions there in either place as we get started. And if we're live on LinkedIn, we'll also be monitoring those questions as well. So with that, Thariq, anything you wanted to add before we jump in?
No, excited to do this. And yeah, maybe we won't record the user questions in case anyone signs up. So we've had a request for that in the past. So that's the only thing. But yeah, excited to do this. Go ahead, Anne.
Sure. Just starting off, we always want to highlight just that everyone kind of comes at this and gets the terminology a little bit different. So to get us all on the same page, I just want to talk a little bit about screening in general. So when we think about supply chain and screening, we often break it down into two main areas: entities and commodities. Both are really important. Today, we're zooming in on entity screening and specifically denied party screening. Some people call it restricted party screening, denied party screening. We're going to be using those interchangeably today. And this is the process of checking individuals, companies, or other entities against government-issued restricted party lists. Examples of these are the entity list from BIS, OFAC's SDN list. There's also denied persons list, and then globally, countries have their own list, and there are also international bodies that put out lists like the UN. So these are people or organizations that are restricted from doing business due to national security, foreign policy, criminal concerns. And I also want to just make a brief comment as we get started. Denied party screening isn't limited only to licensable items or ITAR controlled goods. Even EAR 99 products, non-technical services, anything that you're exporting can trigger violations if it's involved or working with a restricted party. So the screening on entities applies to who you're doing business with and not just what you're exporting. So in the case of tech companies who we have on with us today, the stakes are high and they're getting higher. So it's not just about checking a box. It's about really avoiding major enforcement risks. So a real world example, I'll just go ahead and share my screen really quickly. And as I said, we will share these resources out later. This is just an open source news article, so you can probably look it up yourself. But TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, it was recently announced back in April that they are facing up to $1 billion in potential fines, or sorry, penalties. And this is related to export violations. And I'm using this as an example. The $1 billion comes because the US government can now fine companies up to twice the value of the prohibited transactions. So just using this as an example that the fines are real, um, not to scare anyone, but just to highlight that they are real and they're increasingly public as well. So, in addition to the fines, the reputational damage that can come is also quite high. So, making sure that screening is top priority and compliance in general. So, just thinking through a little bit, what has changed in the last 3 to 6 months that makes denied party screening even more important than ever before? First, obviously, just the scope of restricted parties lists is expanding. There are new entities being added weekly, if not daily, to US, EU, and other multilateral lists. And it's not just big names anymore. So we're seeing a lot of subsidiaries, shell companies, overseas partners that are a little bit harder to detect and trace. And secondly, seeing just more advanced and sophisticated evasion tactics. So again, shell companies, alias names, regional intermediaries, just being used to mask ownership and control. And we've touched on this in a previous webinar, but also the addition now of not only entities to denied parties list, but also addresses. So shell companies popping up at the same address over and over, and there are, I believe now, 7 addresses included on the entity list as well. There's also a new proposal from BIS that is proposing to expand the entity list to cover subsidiaries and affiliates. So this isn't a regulation yet, but something to keep an eye on. This would be similar to OFAC's 50% rule. And if that is in fact passed, many more entities would fall under export restrictions, even if they aren't explicitly named. So again, just making things a little bit more complicated. And the way to prepare for that is to get control and insight into your lists and customers and suppliers as they stand now. So in addition to the regulatory landscape getting increasingly complicated, enforcement is also ramping up. So it's not enough anymore to have a screening process. You're also being asked to show how well your screening process works. Is it documented? Is it auditable? Do you have continuous screening? Are you capturing updates to screening lists? And defensibility at this point is really important. So again, just to share another recent OFAC enforcement action. I thought this one was really interesting as well because it's a settlement between Unicat in Texas and OFAC. And the settlement was for $3 million. But if you go in and read the settlement agreement, it actually walks through what the both aggregating and mitigating factors were. And actually, the initial penalty amount, it said it could have been up to $8 million. So one of the mitigating factors here was that the company self-disclosed. So in this case, the Texas entity was purchased by someone in the UK, and the new CEO, upon purchase, looked into the previous transactions of the company they were buying. So we've talked with a lot of people who do acquisitions and need to screen in bulk those acquisitions and everyone that they're acquiring and their business partners. So this is a good example of the CEO immediately identified the violation and self-disclosed, and also set a number of remedial response, it says. But so they designated a global trade compliance manager, started regularly training, incorporated sanctions compliance language into contracts. So, in looking at these mitigating factors, these are all just important to keep in mind as you're working on your denied party screening program and keeping up with your compliance efforts. And it's a sign to regulators that you're trying to be transparent and you have a mature program. So finally, there's a new kind of full definition from BIS. The full definition of knowledge now includes the awareness of a high probability that a transaction may be restricted, even if you don't fully confirm it. So what this is doing is giving the government a lot broader latitude to raise penalties. So again, it's not about if you knew, but it's about whether you should have known. So again, being able to screen and track that is really important. So that's been a lot of information, but I just wanted to highlight quickly that based on all of this regulatory change, the increase in enforcement actions, denied party screening is no longer kind of a once a quarter, or a last minute afterthought. It should really be central to how exporters, and more specifically tech exporters in the context of who we have on today. So if you're screening manually or inconsistently, you are exposing yourself. So we are encouraging a structured process with automation and defensibility in order to kind of get ahead of those regulatory changes. So I'm going to hand it over to Thariq now to walk through how to do that. So over to you.
Thanks, Anne. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. And I think, something that, from my days at ICE and HSI that I remember was, any enforcement, any compliance related action, if the company shows due diligence, if you can kind of say, hey, we've done the right thing, just like in that second case that, or, we've self-identified issues, that always helps the cause. And there's with that kind of background and our understanding of the enforcement side, we've built in things into Byte to help that, like an audit trail, like the ability to rescreen. And now with the AI context that Anne will bring up on the tool and kind of demo after I say my piece here, being able to capture that and understand it. Because a question that we get asked a lot of the time is, how do I know this is a bad guy or bad girl or whoever it is? How do I know it's a bad person? And you don't unless there's context and some relevance, provided to the user. So we're big on that because our kind of what's near and dear to us is being able to, provide the tool to mid-market and small companies as well. And a lot of the time, people have multiple jobs, they're doing multiple things, and they need that quick feedback on the screen. So yeah, that's a big part of why we built Byte, in the first place. But I'll go ahead here and I'll start to go through this guide we've set up. We've had quite a few requests for like, hey, I've got nothing. We spoke to a company that was exporting semiconductors, and they really wanted to do the right thing, and they didn't know where to start. And so we started to work with them, and part of that process included, creating a guide to set up the program. And they were kind of kind enough to say, well, if there's other companies that want to take a look at this guide, why don't you share it? And that's the genesis for the guide. So I'll go ahead and share it here. I won't take too. I don't want to kill you guys by PowerPoint. But I'll just kind of walk through just the kind of sections and the parts that are interesting. Let me share that, and I will go in full screen mode. Okay. Yeah, so starting with the basics around what is denied party screening, and again, terminology-wise, restricted party screening, sanctions screening, things like that apply, obviously, and touching on what it is, screening the entities against restricted lists, the ensuring the compliance piece, and looking at why people are barred, and looking at the high-level agencies that govern the statutes around denied party screening and the potential to enforce or identify penalties. And I did mention Homeland Security investigations. Obviously, the DOJ is involved as well. But for the most part, these are four agencies that really kind of govern denied or restricted party screening and the enforcement of the program in the US. And that fine, 300K, is not is not small for a lot of companies. So, oop, that's not the button I wanted. And then going on to page 2, looking at who conducts it and the kind of areas that are important. Everyone knows export control. That's a big part of denied party screening. That's a large part of our customer base as well. But imports as well, and this is where we get into forced labor. We won't obviously touch on that today. I would say from a thematic perspective, forced labor is a little bit outside of denied party screening, but still a list that you screen against to identify risk. And we're going to have a separate webinar on that in a couple of months here. But then sales is another one. A lot of people don't know that, but international sales, especially, you've got to screen the people you talk to, especially if you've got sensitive technologies in your pipeline. Super important. And that's where the risk starts. It starts at the beginning of the pipeline. Getting a handle on this is really important. And then purchasing as well. They may see purchasing, procurement may see a name that the sales and trade compliance don't see. So giving them the ability to screen as well really provides that extra kind of security blanket. So how do you create a denied party screening program? Obviously, the first thing is assign responsibility, designate an officer or a team to be that primary point of contact. Define the scope. That goes into, these four boxes up here. What are you looking at and where do you start, right? It's different from company to company and it's customized. And then pick the tool. Obviously, we're biased to a particular one, but there's many out there. So do due diligence, do your market research around what works best. And then, continuing to walk through the process. How does that integrate with your business process? How does an organization include this new program into the everyday? How often do you want to screen? And then maintaining documentation. If you find a hit, even if it's one every 1,000, capture that and store it. That helps compliance and enforcement tremendously when an evaluation is done or an audit is instituted. And then what's the escalation procedure? So if you do find something, who do you talk to? Do you have legal counsel? Who in management decides that we can't sell to this entity anymore? Who decides that this is a step we need to take to protect the business, and this is what it's going to cost our bottom line? So those are important decisions that go into that escalation procedure. The champion or the owner of the denied party screening program really should have the ability to communicate what the risks are. And so, the resolution process is a big deal. Making sure you have the right entity, the right company, doing the due diligence. And we've got additional information around the 50% rule and touched on that a little bit. That's important as well. And then the decision making. If you've got a supplier on a list, and you designate them or you sanction them, what does that actually do to them, right? So there needs to be communication and working with them, potentially with legal if you need it, or just a straight up, hey, here's our company policy. If you're on a government sanctioned list, you've signed our end user license agreement, we can't do business with you. And so even baking that denied party screening or articulating the rules and requirements for your company into your contractual paperwork as well. That's super important. That makes life a lot easier. And you're going to wish you had it when you're paying your lawyer $800 an hour. Just something to think about. And then I did mention the documentation and reporting, and getting into the mitigation, which I mentioned as well. So these steps kind of help you think through what it is you need, specifically tailored to your company for denied party screening. Lastly, where do you start? You don't know where to start. Just start screening. Start looking at your trade transactions. Look at an invoice. Look at something that has entity names on it, and start to grow from there. Start to figure out how to get the data in, how to do a bulk screen, how to do a monthly screen, who provides you with that data. Start to collect the information you need, and talk to people. We're always open to talking, even if you don't use our tool. I have experience from ICE and HSI, and has worked in compliance for other government agencies as well. Always happy to chat about our experiences. Some of the areas that we can, once you get the program going, what is good practice for being audit ready? How do you capture your tickets? And we'll show you our ticketing system that has all the information. We have a really good community of consultants, people who are always willing to kind of pick up the phone and work with you. How do you do bulk supplier checks? Maybe you are a larger company and you have a supplier come in. You want that extra level of security. Get their supplier list and screen it. It takes us about 5 hours to do 5,000 entities. It's not long. It's something that's accessible. The clauses in your vendor contracts I mentioned, and then suppliers and vendors. If you're big, we spoke to a Fortune 50 company, and they want us to go talk to their distributors about this as well. So, how do you get your ecosystem safer? It is a big deal. I will actually, I don't know if I can post documents and in the Zoom chat. For sure, we'll email this out to anyone who attended the event. And yeah, again, I'll post my email here as well, and Anne's too. So get in touch if you have any questions. But I'll kind of stop there, Anne.
Great, thank you. And as I said, we have our Q&A open. So as questions come in, we will push those to the end. But now I will go ahead and walk through a live demo of the Byte bulk query. So let me just get back to sharing my screen. This is just our Byte website, bytedata.io. You can start a 14-day free trial from the website, but also you can log in. There's a register down here if you did want to register for a new account. I will just go ahead and get signed in. So really quickly, I'll show the one-off screening, and then show kind of how that translates to bulk. So over here on the left-hand side, actually, let me just make sure I'm on the right team before I start messing around. All right, so over here on the left-hand side, you can see screen. And so then people and companies, and I'm going to put in Neva Electronics, and press enter. While it's pulling up the AI evaluation, I just wanted to highlight some of the different ways that you can filter your returns here. So if you are a US entity and you strictly want to look at US restricted parties, you can click this lens here, and what this does is filters out all of the other lists that you may not want to be screening against. You can still see all the lists over on this side, and always add additional lists if you'd like. So in you can also click multiple lenses, so we can add our worldwide restricted parties, making sure that UN sanctions are there, EU, and so on. So all of these lenses are buckets of data that you can pick and choose from. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as screening against nothing. And so going back to my Neva electronics, I don't have any entity resolution on. You can choose to turn that on or off. And then I get an AI evaluation here that gives me the entity I put in, my risk. So in this case, this is a high risk entity. My best match is Neva Electronics Joint Stock Company, 80% probability. And this is on OFAC's SDN list. So we can see then the context as well. And then down below, we can actually begin to go in and look at the hits that are associated with this entity. So I can determine that this is the same entity address and get additional information about the entity from this record. I can also see that it's showing up also on a Ukrainian list. So again, just see the different names. You can also search in Cyrillic and have these returns return. And you can, as we talked about before, audibility and showing what you've done is so important. So from here, you can just create a ticket right here. Um, and share it if you wanted to share it with a team member. But then here you can also set your screening frequency. So in this case, this has already been a hit on OFAC, so I can continue to screen it, weekly or monthly if I wanted to. This is particularly helpful if you run an entity and there are no hits, and then you want to make sure that you're still checking daily or weekly in case there are changes to that entity. So I will submit that, and I've successfully created a new case. That case then appears in my monitoring ticket. This is the workflow. So here we can see Neva Electronics. It's copied that AI evaluation here, and again has all of the same returns down below. You can set this status, change that to approved, rejected, so you have proof of that. You can set your screening frequency. You can also upload any additional documents. So if you had a purchase order or an end user statement, something like that, that you wanted to be associated with the entity that you screened, easy to just upload that right here. The activity is also really helpful for monitoring purposes. So every screen that you do will show here. Those are the automated screens, so you can come in and see the date that it was screened, if there were any new results added. You also have an audit log down below, so you can begin to look at those actions, and you have timestamps on everything to show when you ran it and anything that returned. Again, you can enable notifications on this, so you can get either an email or an in-app notification if there are changes to the entity. You can share, you can also comment. So again, these comments are time-stamped for your audit purposes. Going to settings, again, you can just change anything, and then you can also see the list that you ran your search against. So in this case, I didn't have any lenses turned on, so it was the entirety of the data catalog that I was searching against. So I ran this initial search, just the one off to show the AI evaluation, that high, medium, and low. But obviously, if you have 2,000 entities or 7,000 or however many, you don't want to be doing this all manually. That would be quite a burden. So we have introduced a bulk upload. So very easy bulk upload. You can set your percentage match within this modal. So that's really helpful. You can run it, you can see the returns if you want to change this from 60 to 70 to 80, depending on, your risk aperture. So what you can do is just put in the title, bulk transactions, screen, June 20. You can put in an ID. In this case, I'll run it at 60. And you can turn the AI on or off. So in this case, I'll enable it. And I also want to create a ticket. So again, just tracking my workflow. And then there's a template you can download. You can also click to upload. So you would click this. I will show one that I've already uploaded, but you can click this and then hit submit. And then your tickets come, instead of in your single search tickets, they show up over here in your doc tickets tab. So you open your doc tickets, and then opening my June 2025 suppliers. This is the one that I ran yesterday. So this had about 100 entities in it. You can see the results that I've gotten down below. So you can view results in the app here. So you can see that AI evaluation. And looking here, this was had gotten a penalty and oversight agreement. I believe it was way back in the early 2000s. And then here is where you get the output. So what this output is it's in an Excel. You can download it. And I will just stop sharing briefly and share my Excel output. So what this is, these are all of the entities that I searched. So you can see quite a few of them don't have any results at all. And the ones that do, I'll highlight this one. You get the lens that it hit on, the high, medium, or low, the context that matches that AI context, whoops, that comes out in the ticket, and then your percent match as well. So you can then go through and filter those results in an Excel if that's easier and how you like to view your returns. But again, you have that timestamp of when you ran the transaction. So, or when you ran the entity, so you have that for your audit purposes. That is stored in that ticket. So that's stored here. And then if you wanted to upload an additional document, again, any supporting documentation, so that's all stored in your June 2025 suppliers. And again, you can see I've added the document. You have the timestamp of when it was added, and you can keep uploading those bulk transactions here. So in this case, this green cloud is the one I had highlighted. It's matching on Keen Cloud. So again, it's 90% probability here, but it's not matching on a list that's a high risk. It's not a US sanctions list, and that's why we have a medium risk associated there. You can quickly then see that it's not a match, and determine what to do with that within your own workflows. So as I said, those are all stored in Monitor. So Monitor becomes your go-to to kind of show everything that you've done with your screening and be able to review that, easily pull that up for audit purposes. I did also want to show while we were in here, the Byte U. So these are basic 101 courses. Import compliance, export compliance, forced labor, CSCRIM, ESG, trade-based money laundering. So these are really helpful if you're bringing someone new onto your team, or if you're expanding your supporting trade compliance team to, as Thariq mentioned, sales or procurement, helping people understand why, tracing suppliers for forced labor risk or screening on the export compliance side is important.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we're going to have specific denied party screening courses here pretty soon, and we are approved to be an NCBFA Educational Institute provider. So we have got 3 courses listed, and we're going to add the denied party screening one, so you can get credits from that as well. So hopefully, a couple of months.
Thanks, Tark. So going through, we also have our data catalog. So what this is it is all of the same lists that fuel the screening module, but they're set up in a different way. So you can come in, there's not the entity resolution, there aren't the lenses, but it's just another search tool. It also allows you to explore specifically if you are looking at, let's say, the UK and you'd like to see different lists that are associated or that are put out by the UK and entities on those. So just a different view of the data, but it's very helpful if you are doing a deep dive into any sanctions list or into entities that you have more questions on. I believe that's in terms of bulk screening, what we had to cover today. So I will wrap up there in terms of the live demo, unless Tarek, there was anything else you wanted to go through in the application itself.
No, not really. So yeah, I mean, right now we've got, I think 500, just talking about the data side a bit. We bring in over 500 data sets every 15 minutes. It depends on when they're updated from the source. And that all is here in the people and people companies, import export flags. I think, and obviously we've done the denied party screening in the people and companies module here. But why don't you just quickly show the import-export flags, because sometimes there are company names in those too, right? With the AD/CVD orders and things like that.
Yep. So if you are screening against AD/CVD orders, for example, if you were to screen an HS code and you got an AD/CVD order here, at this point, I would recommend you come over to people and companies and we'll try Fraser. And then there's an AD/CVD entities here. So I'll apply that and run my screen. And then I can see that East Fraser Fiber is listed here. There are a few Frasers as an anti-dumping entity, so those are available here. And then I can show what that would look like if I searched the HS code on the import-export flag. So I have quite a few returns here on AD/CVD commodities for that HS code because there are so many open cases. So that is how you can screen there. And then with the import-export flags, you can also start to see if there are PGA codes associated. So in this case, there are. It gives you the agency, then also the flag code as well. So in this case, additional data may be required. And those are also then you can create a ticket and save based on your commodities.
Yep. And thanks, Anne. And just touching on the AI piece a bit, the evaluation here, one of the reasons why we've got, especially on people and companies, the integration. So we have 4 AI agents right now, people and companies, import-export flags, the tariff checker. I really like how this one looks. So maybe you could, I know this is we're getting out of the denied party screening. So, Anne, you can tell me to shut up if you want to, but this is one agent, and then classification as well. So classify is our other agent, and this works through both the US ITC or HTS book, the GIRs, and cross rulings as well. So cross is another place, obviously, from a trade compliance perspective, super important, not necessarily denied parties, but that's another place we have quote unquote names on records. So. I don't have anything else. Looks like we do have a question though. Would Byte screen for an individual name if they were associated as a principal of a denied party company to see if an individual from one denied party has moved to start a new company or working as an individual consultant or new hire? So the AI evaluation will pull out the names. So if you do type in the entity name, even if it's a separate company. I don't actually think we asked for the company in the
It's person or company,
yeah.
so I'll use Tariq's favorite example and do Oleg Deripaska. So in this case, when I search for Oleg, if I come down to US restricted parties, I do have quite a few entities listed that he is associated with through OFAC's listing. So you can see some British Virgin Islands, Russia. So there are quite a few entities there.
And likes Russian oligarchs more than I do. She's actually helped list almost 20 with OFAC in a previous life through intelligence work she did. So you can't blame me all the time for Oleg. And
Yes, if they are listed in there, then those returns will show up.
yeah. And that also kind of touches on, I know you touched on the beneficial ownership rule a bit. I know that's changing. Has that statute been altered? No.
No.
Okay. It's just in discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, so we had a few minutes set up for Q&A.
Yeah, and while questions are coming in, I will post the NEI broker credit information in the chat
Hmm.
while we give people time, and then also some links to other resources that I'll send out as well. But in the meantime, get those in the chat.
Yeah, and it goes without saying, if anyone wants a free trial of the tool, you can sign up or just shoot us an email. And we'd be happy to set you up. We've got quite a few things on the roadmap coming out, including kind of the ability to database things. So having a database where you actually keep track of all your suppliers, add to them. We recurrently screen them, things like that. That's coming out pretty soon. And then we'll have the kind of a workflow, kind of like TurboTax, to work through a product and the compliance related to it. So the classification, then the tariff, then the flags related to it. And you'd work through a process that eventually dumps that into your own customized database. So you keep tracking your product catalog in that way.
All right, and let me just double check LinkedIn and see if there are any questions that have come in there.
I couldn't get the live thing to start, Anne. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It looks like we're still alive, so
Okay. Oh,
somehow it worked. All right. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. But thank you everyone for joining. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. It looks like our emails are in the chat now if we're not already in touch. And I will say, just if you are looking to get the broker credit, the link is there. You can go to that logistics-EI NCBFAA website, put in the unique identification code, and you should be all set. And yeah, just to reiterate, if you need one takeaway, it's that denied party screening doesn't have to be overwhelming. There are tools and people available to help, and just do it with be intentional about your screening, and with the right processes and tools, you can stay compliant. So please reach out if you have any help or need any help or have any questions, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
thanks, everyone.